Welcome back to Ozarks Live. We are once again here to talk about the race around the world.
Yep, and this time they jetted right off to France. So they kind of left the self-driving behind, and it felt like they took that first official trip on the Amazing Race private kind of charter plane, which was super exciting.
Yeah, that looked like a lot of fun because they showed a little bit of clip from inside that plane.
Yeah, and I liked their kind of like camaraderie on the plane. That was like fun to see too. Them kind of like all giving each other a hard time. That was, I don't know, it's just like fun to watch them kind of be like people outside of the game for a second.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, this island that they went to is called Corsica. So it is a territory, I guess, of France.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that part. I missed that part until I was reading our notes on this. But oh my goodness, I want to go to that island.
It
looks amazing.
Yeah, and just super fun. They did so many cool things on this episode. So they get to this roadblock, or sorry, this detour, and they can either do a curdle or saddle. So they're like curdling cheese, which would not be for me. It looked really hard.
It looked like it would require a lot of patience.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that I would have that.
I don't think so either. And we saw Dusty and Ryan fall under pressure there. And but some of them also did it, like the other teams that were there also did it kind of effortlessly, the cheese. So I'm like, maybe it just took patience that, like we said, we don't have. But the saddle didn't look as hard. Like it looked like they were doing that pretty easily. I think the hard part of that task would have been getting that horse to go down the mountain, because someone else that's been watching the show for a long time was telling me that in the past the hard parts of that have been like if they have like a mule or a donkey, a horse or whatever, like getting them to actually move sometimes can be the hard part. And I'm like, oh, that would make more sense, because I was like, it looks so easy. You know what I mean?
Let's go back to Dusty and Ryan for just a second.
Yeah.
So whenever, it was taking them so long, they were getting so far behind, everybody else was finishing and leaving, and they were getting quite frustrated.
Yeah.
And so they decide in the middle of that to change and go ahead and do the saddle.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're getting in this car, and the car can't make it up a hill. And I was cracking up because they're like, as if we hadn't been through enough with the curdling thing.
Yes,
now we're gonna have to get out. We're gonna push this car up the hill.
Yes, and they pushed the car up the hill.
Anyway, I was very entertained by that. And they were in last place at that point, and they still came out not in last place.
Yeah. So, and then after this detour, they go to the roadblock, which is canyoneering, which I've never heard of until this episode.
But now I want to do it.
But it looks so fun.
Can we please take a road trip, or I guess a flight?
Ozarks Live trip to France. Let's do it. Yeah. So they essentially canyoneering. You go into just like a natural canyon or whatever, and I don't really know how you like actually do it. I guess if you were to go do it yourself.
That's what I need details on.
But on the show, essentially they would kind of like they were up in the canyon. They walked up there to the top. They would jump into a body of water, and then like zip line at one point, swim a little bit, jump again, and then there was like a natural slide through the rocks, which looked really cool.
I'm telling you, I want to do this so bad, and they need to put out information on like
it did look really cool.
Even if you're not on the show, if you want to do this, here's how you get a hold of the right contacts.
Yeah, I also liked that like the clue was like kind of hidden under that like little waterfall. Not really, but you know what I mean. That's kind of what it looked like.
Yeah, so they hung enough clues for all of the teams, right, to be able to find it right there. My husband, the first team that we saw grab one, he goes, why wouldn't they just grab all of them so the other teams wouldn't?
Can you not say just like throw it in the water or something? No, I mean, hey, valid, I guess.
I wonder if that's against the rules.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cheating?
Speaking of kind of team cooperation here, so in this canyoneering challenge, we see Lulu and Lala, so the radio DJ twins.
Yes.
And then Kayla and Raquel, the flight attendants. They've like kind of been in this like girls alliance per se, right? Well, then one of the twins, I don't remember which one was doing it, gets upset because the flight attendant just like goes ahead and skips ahead of her.
Yeah, but it's
and there was like all this weird tension. And that's where I totally agree with you.
It's not so much like Survivor where you have to have alliances. You are actually competing against them.
Right.
So.
And I'm like, if you can help each other like advance a little, cool. But I don't think you have to be like side by side the entire challenge. Like ultimately you want to get ahead of them.
And it's a win it.
Yeah. So then they leave the canyoneering. By the way, Dusty and Ryan get there, and Dusty skips past Akbar, so that's great. So they're like really catching up from their big last place moment here. So then all the teams after canyoneering have to go to the kayaking, right? Yeah. And at the kayaking, that's where you're gonna kayak yourself to the pit stop. But you have to like kind of, I guess, build up this kayak on your own, not build it up, but like blow it up, I guess, which is really interesting because not only are you not tired from the canyoneering and everything else you've been doing, but then you have to get in there, blow it up. You also important detail, you had to leave your backpack in the taxi that you brought over, which was interesting.
So when you get a clue on this show, read it.
Yeah.
Because the Lulu Lala, they did not read it until they got down there. Then they had to
Absolutely.
turn around, go back,
Yes.
and that put them way behind, you know?
Way
I don't
behind.
understand why you wouldn't just read the clue as soon
and
as
they
you
had
got
such
it.
a good lead, and it's interesting that that's what got them. But that just shows how, I think it just shows how close everyone was in this challenge, you know? But I wanted to point out really fast, on the way to the kayaking, there's this really special moment where Dusty and Ryan are just talking about like how great this experience has been to them. And Dusty mentions how his father passed away in the meantime of the two, the end of the last race and the start of, you know, this one, the hiatus and stuff.
Right.
And just talks about how special it's been and how he talks to his dad every morning, just asking for like strength and encouragement for him and Ryan, and how it's just been such a good experience doing this with Ryan, and how like Dusty had a son also during the hiatus. And so he's like, I just want my son to be able to do something like this one day with one of his best buddies. And it was just like this super just like raw moment, you know? And I'm like, that's the human being right there, you know?
It makes me cheer for them all the more because, I mean, I'm already cheering for them. They're great guys. They have such a good attitude.
Absolutely.
You know, we know the history on the one of them, and now, you know, this
sure.
family meaning so much to them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now-
I'm rooting all the way for them.
Yes, me too. Now, who won this leg? It was Kim and Pin.
Yes.
Kim and Pin, the
Kim and
Holderness
Pin.
family.
Yes.
And
Who I
they
really-
killed it.
I
Yes.
really like them
I
as
like them
well.
as well, and they really did kill
They
it.
are hilarious.
Yes.
Kim was talking about there's a new Kim to
Oh,
this.
that was such a good part of the entire episode. I was like, okay, I'm with it. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Now, also, the losers of this time who were eliminated.
At Bar and Cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The educators from like the Northeast or whatever.
And what's interesting is it's usually her that's running behind, but this time it was him
was
that
him.
struggled, and that's
Yeah.
why they were eliminated.
Yeah.
But at least you can't blame her.
You know, that's what I was gonna say. I think ultimately it was like interesting. That's how the way they went out, because he blamed his wife the entire time, and then it was finally his turn, and he couldn't deliver either. So we'll miss them. But and you know, actually, Akbar was doing something with the city of Springfield last week.
Seriously?
Because they do so much with education.
Okay.
They were doing it was like a virtual seminar for local educators on how to incorporate African American studies in their discipline, which was super cool.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Love it.
okay, interesting.
This
So
is a good one. If you go back and watch it.
yeah, so I just have to know, what are your predictions for the rest of the season? Who do you think takes
Ryan
it
and
all?
Dusty, all the way.
Okay, interesting.
You?
I'll say I want Dusty and Ryan to win, but I have been thinking a lot this week, and editing-wise, I almost feel like Kim and Pin win. I want Dusty and Ryan to win. I feel like Kim and Pin win, because Dusty and Ryan have been very involved in some of these edits, it feels like. You know, like they're in all of the sneak peeks and the commercials and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I feel like it's too obvious if they win, per
That
se.
they're, like,
but I'm
really
like,
funneling
yeah,
this towards
but
them.
Kim and Pin definitely give them a run for their money.
And I like that.
Yeah, but I will say my prediction now, and I don't know if it's 3 or 4 teams in the final leg or how it's working this season, but I think the last 3 teams will be Dusty and Ryan, Kim and Pin, and then Raquel and Kayla, the flight attendants.
Okay.
So I think that Aruna, Natalia, and Lulu Lala will probably get eliminated sometime between now and then.
I agree.
So it'll be interesting rest of the season, though. I'm excited. I'm just excited to see how it finishes. You know, I feel like we're getting so close. I know I was told this week that the finale is March 2nd, so we're just a few weeks out,
wow.
which is crazy. It's, you know, just flies by so fast.
Yeah, it really does.
You can catch tonight's episode of The Amazing Race right here on Color 10 every Wednesday, of course, or you can stream it on Paramount Plus and CBS.com.
That's right. We'll be right back.